and thank you for tuning in on Yachting International Radio. My name is Eva Lianne Veldkamp, and you are listening to Maritime Unity. Today we will talk with Monika Lemaijic on language and maritime slang. Hi, Monika. It's nice to see you today.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on this podcast episode with me today again. In the last episode, we talked about your work for WISTA, and we talked about pretty awesome things. So if you're listening to this episode, also recommend listening to the other one. So before we start on the subject of today, can you please introduce yourselves a little bit?
My name is Monika Lemaijic. I am more well known as the WISTA Australia president, but I am also an asset manager in my day job. Technical language and the use of slang is and I'm Australian, so it's very common where I come from.
Yeah, and it's such a nice topic because, it's really interesting because, of course, we're having this podcast on Yachting International Radio, but, our background is in the merchant marine. But I think it's very recognizable for all of us out there who work with or on ships. It's, recognizable. You have to deal with so many different cultures and dialects and languages, but also what people perceive, right? Can you tell us a little bit about an example that you have that you face sometimes when you think, okay, people are talking about slang or they don't know what they're talking about at all, or they assume things from another person?
I don't know what they're talking about at all.
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
Right.
It happens. So my career was in ship stability, and it's quite often that people try to school me in stability, and I'm like, I don't think you want to school me in this topic, but thank you. Even to the point the other day I was talking to a boat builder, and I didn't tell the person what my background was. He just knew that it was the asset manager, and he started talking about center of gravity and then turned to me and said, sorry, I'll break it down for you. And I said, sorry, I'm a naval architect who specializes in hydrostatic. I want you to whip right through.
It's good that you gave this disclaimer.
I was a bit bored. I didn't want to sit there and listen to him dumbing down stability for me. But so we had the thing that, like, the first thing that came to my head when you said about slang was the proper term is the forecastle. Mm-hmm. But, you often hear it as the forecastle.
Forecastle, yeah.
Forecastle, you call it forecastle. But the term is forecastle. Mm-hmm. That was the first thing that came to my head, because when I was learning it at school and the teacher was like, the forecastle? And I was like, the what?
Foxhole?
The foxhole? I also had, talking about different languages, when I was learning maritime law, the teacher was saying what I heard. He was Italian, and what I heard was the marriage. And I was like, what's the marriage? And I didn't say anything. I just sat quietly because I was like, I have no idea what the marriage is. Anyway, he was saying demurrage.
Demurrage.
Yeah. And then when I realized that he was saying demurrage, I went, oh, you're saying demurrage. And he goes, don't think I understand everything that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, but that's so important because basically this is about communication, right? So you have to make sure that the other person understands what you're trying to say and get feedback on actually if that is what you try to bring across.
Absolutely. The other time I noticed it as well is, so I sit between, so I've got operations team and then I've got the executives. And so I'm often sitting in the middle trying to translate, and the operations team will be like, how come the executives can't see that it's broken? And the executive will be like, why isn't it not presented to me in this risk and governance format? Mm-hmm. And so I often have to try and translate between the two layers of this is what it means in operations, this is what it means in executive. And that's actually quite interesting as well.
Yeah, that's also very interesting. And then you really need some slang, right? I don't know if this is the right word for it, but you just had a really good example while we were a little bit talking before we recorded. A lot of people sometimes use brand names to point out the certain the thing they need. So this is, I think, a really good example on this. And then, but what you mean maybe is something else, right? It's just the point of view that you have from a certain position that you have. So operational position or a leadership or management position.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So there's a few. So as I did point out that quite often, and it seems to be with like brand of ropes, someone with like, the Dyneema, and one of the managers said to me, what is that? And I'm like, it's a brand of rope, but I don't know how thick it is or what they want. I know asking for that brand of that particular thing. Or I noticed that people do it with fenders as well. So instead of saying the fender, it would be the Yokohama.
Yeah.
And unless you know that the Yokohama is the fender, you wouldn't put the two pieces together.
Yeah.
My example was translating, and this is really common in business. If you're a technical person and you're trying to translate to the apprentice what they need to do, or if you're trying to translate to the manager what you're seeing, I think that kind of change in language is also something that we don't take into consideration.
Yeah, certainly. Because then, if as an apprentice, you don't know yet because you still have to learn. But I think we might have a solution for that, because I think there's somebody who has listed all kind of words with the meaning and explanation with it.
It's not full. It's not the full. It doesn't have Dyneema in it. It doesn't have branding in it. I have tried though. So what Eva is referring to is I did start writing an app, and the app was actually, as we were talking about in the last podcast, was about inclusivity. So what I found was I was often talking to supporting functions such as lawyers or procurement, and that we were saying it's on the port side. And so we just assume that they'll know that means it should be red. So I wrote this. It's an app. It's an app on. You can get it on Google and on what's it called? Apple. I'm not good at Apple phone thing
in the App Store.
It's pardon. Apple Store. That's the one.
Yeah.
You can find it on the app stores. It's a dictionary, and so what I've tried to do is write definitions of things that come up regularly. I've tried to put acronyms that come up regularly, and I've tried to write job descriptions. It's got room for improvement and more things to add. It was just my start.
Yeah, but I think it's just so nice because it's like it's providing this basic understanding about things. And also then you will not feel weird from the place that you're at, either if you are an apprentice or if you just are very operational, only used to use brand names. You can just, look it up in a dictionary. So it makes so much sense. So thank you for talking about this, because it's awesome to have this. It's awesome to have this database with words. And I think it's so nice to look at that and how it evolves a little bit. So that's very nice.
It's definitely evolved since I first started writing. So I only had the word. And then I was talking to I did the Blue MBA in Copenhagen. One of my classmates was like, oh, you should put acronyms in as well. And then I started noticing that in the definitions, there was job description. So if you didn't know what you may not have been able to figure it all out. So yeah, then it's been evolving over time. So if anyone wants a word added, let me know. Or if anyone thinks I should update something, let me know. I'm happy to take the feedback. Yeah. It is called the Maritime Manifest, by the way.
Maritime Manifest. That's nice.
Yeah.
And also, if you're listening to this right now and you know about a certain word that is used on a ship or in your maritime world that is like standing out or that's very specific, then please share it in the comments below, because then, we can all discover it. It would be nice to do a little project on this, right?
Yeah.
Then we can just discover new things.
Yeah, even words that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know all the words.
No, of course not. And also you don't know what you don't know. And
exactly.
As I've been taught, assuming things is very dangerous sometimes. You can just better listen and be open for new information. Because then you just assume, it's not very, very convenient sometimes. So thank you so much for sharing that. And it would be nice. So again, if you're listening to this and if you have, an example about some language misunderstanding you had in your job or at your workplace, then please share it. And it would be nice to talk about this in the comments. So, Monika, is there something else you wanted to talk about on this episode on language?
Language. Do you have any notes that I was meant to talk about?
No, I think it's a very sweet and subtle, small subject. I think in the last episode, we talked really long about communication and about being inclusive. So I think language and maritime slang is just a small sideway into this other episode. So, yeah.
I don't know if you want to keep this in, so I'll try to start from the start. So Eva ended in, do you have anything that I want to add? And I'm not too sure if this is a around the world thing or if it's just an Australian thing. I think it's it stems from an English thing, but they have rhyming English and it's very specific. So I know that maritime people use it and I only know of maritime industry that use it. And they'll say things like, my cheese and kisses, and that means my missus, which means my wife. And the eau de cologne is the phone. And sometimes if they get really good at it, which I'm not that good at it, I have to often follow the bouncing ball. They'll just say the first words. They say cheese and kisses is my missus, which is my wife. They'll just say my cheese. And I'll be like, wait, what?
Wow. That's such a nice example. I didn't know.
I don't know what because I only ever worked with older gentlemen who used to speak like this. I don't know what the husband version is of my cheese and of my wife. Nice. So I can't tell you what that is. Yeah, no one ever had a husband. They only ever had wives, so I only know cheese and kisses. Oh, but yeah, that's also something it's a dying language, but it's a maritime thing. And do you have anything like that in Netherlands?
Yeah, we have a lot of specific words. And also Dutch is a very ancient maritime language. So sometimes you just use words for something. Like I worked with Russian officers once, and then you say goede wacht. It means if you are changing duties on a bridge, for example, you just wish somebody a good watch. So you say goede wacht. And then they say, what? But this is Dutch. This is Dutch? Yeah. So it's also Russian because it's pogonię wachten. So it's wacht, and wacht is the same word. And you have it with a lot of other words like this. But also in Dutch, you have very specific, really strange sentences, like you just said, the English one. So that's amazing. And that's also nice to share because it's also a little bit of humor into things. And also a little bit color into our words and our understanding with each other. I think that's just amazing to add a little bit.
That's not in the dictionary because I don't know it well enough.
Yeah.
And it's not maritime specific. They're not maritime words.
No, but it's nice because you use it in the workplace and you use it, So it's so nice to talk with you about it. And if you're listening to this and have some examples, then please share it because it's so nice to discover this from each other. So thank you so much, Monika, for being here today with us.
Thank you.
It's really nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for listening today to Maritime Unity with Eva and Monika on Yachting International Radio. Thank you, and please tune in next time.